terrible noises come through. And then if you just unmute yourself when you want to ask a question. We're going to record, I've had the sign, we're going to record this and put it on our YouTube channel. So we want to let everybody know that, so everybody's happy with that. We put it up there because there are some people who can't join us today. It'll be helpful for them. So if there are any things of a particular personal nature that you don't want to raise in something that's going to be recorded, we can deal with that outside this forum. Or if you want to talk in general terms, we can do that, no problem. So the format that we've used for these meetings, tried and tested, is that we're going to show you a short animation about quality of life, because that really underpins the ethos, culture, and how we work. And then we can pick up on any little questions there. And then we've got a short video to show you, which Chris narrates, which is a tour of the school, which will give you a sense of the environment and what it looks like and feels like, because unfortunately you can't be with us. We've had to go to this style of meeting because, well, partly because of COVID to start off with, but then actually the number of inquiries we get now makes it just too big. So we've had, I mean, this year alone, it'll be coming up to 240 inquiries. And as you can imagine, we know everybody wants to come and look around the school. What we've got to be careful of is not disrupting the smooth and efficient running of the school day and distracting the boys. So I hope you'll appreciate that. We will always give people a chance to come and have a look around as part of that admissions process. And if you've seen the animation, you'll be aware of that. Okay, now then, the light is on, recording has started. So best behaviour, everybody. Rob, are we able to, I was thinking Rob or Rachel, Rachel, are we able to watch the QOL animation just to get everybody in the mood? And then we'll come back together. Okay, hopefully we'll see that coming onto screen any second now. There'll be plenty of time to talk any questions that anybody has after we've seen the animations. Oh, here we go. We're in danger of having a short animation about quality of life. Just a thumbs up if you can see that on your screen, please.
At Swaycliffe, we want to keep you safe, find out what makes you happy and what we can do to improve your quality of life now and in the future. It's our job at school to make this happen. Every student has a key worker who wants to know all about you. You can talk to them about anything you like. To make sure you have time to chat to your key worker, you'll have a weekly key working session on your timetable, but you can always find other times to chat as well. You can talk about the sorts of things you enjoy doing at home and at school, and what we can do to help you. You can also talk about what you'd like to be in the future, like a postman, a train driver, a doctor, an astronaut, an IT technician, a singer, or a footballer, or anything else you think you'll be good at and enjoy. Your key worker can help you with things like joining clubs, going on visits, organising work experience, and being introduced to people who like the same things as you. You might want to tell them about things you find difficult, like getting too anxious at times, understanding what people mean, making friends, sensory things, staying calm, learning in class, and becoming more independent at home, in school, and in the community. Your key worker can show you posters which explain how the school can help you in 4 main areas. In school, we call these the 4 whys, because they are the reason why we do what we do for all our students. Communication, self-management, independence, and achievement. As well as your weekly session with your key worker, they will help you to complete a questionnaire at the end of each term, so you can tell us what you'd like help with, what you are enjoying, and what you want to do more of. This will help your key worker make a plan of what we're going to do during the next term. Your key worker will also talk to your family each week and help them to fill in a questionnaire each term as well. There might be things we can do to help make life easier or better for everyone at home. Remember, we are all here to help keep you safe, find out what makes you happy, and improve your quality of life. And we can do this best if we all keep talking to each other.
Okay, thank you, Rachel, for loading that one up for us. In a minute, we'll show you a short video of the school. We have a YouTube channel, and all of the animations that I mentioned earlier, including that one, you can find on the YouTube channel. I don't know how it was for you at home, but it was a bit distorted that when we were watching it here. So apologies for that if that's how it came across at home. Rob, you just type into YouTube Swaycliffe Park?
We'll send a link out, but essentially if you search for Swaycliffe Park School in YouTube, and we'll come up, and there are kind of 25 videos to watch. Including this one that you're going to see now. And
including this one that we're about to see now, which is a little, it's about 10 minutes about the school, narrated by our good friend Chris. Okay, sit back and enjoy.
Hello and welcome to Swaycliffe Park School. My name is Chris Heslop. I'm one of the assistant principals at the school, and I'm going to give you a short guided tour. The first thing I'd like to draw your attention to is the fantastic location of Swaycliffe Park School. We're set in the Oxfordshire countryside with extensive grounds which help to create a calm and peaceful environment for our students. In addition to that, it's a fantastic facility for those students to use. So this is one of our Key Stage 3 classrooms. Within Key Stage 3 at Swaycliffe Park School, we have 4 tutor groups of 6 students. You can see that the room is set up for the 6 students. We've got our 6 student desks. We've got our teacher desk. We've got our interactive whiteboard. The class of 6 are supported by 2 members of staff, the teacher and the tutor LSA who works with them across the curriculum. If you look around the classroom, you can see the desks are the same. However, the chairs are very different. We've got 4 students in this particular group who like to sit on the orange chairs here, but we've got one of our students likes a chair that rocks back and forward a little to give them that sensory input. And we've got another student who likes a chair which moves a little more side to side, again, for their sensory input. At the back of the classroom, we've got one student in this class who likes to use a standing up desk. So these individual needs can be incorporated into our approach. The reason why we do that is to bring down any barriers that the students have so as they can concentrate on their learning and make that academic progress, which we want them to do. So round here, we have the Key Stage 3 quiet rooms. We put 3 quiet rooms in during the last academic year. And the idea of these spaces is to give the students an area which they can go to either work quietly, because maybe they're finding the classroom environment just a little bit noisy. It also gives them an area to go to work with a member of staff, maybe on a literacy intervention or a numeracy intervention, where they can have some peace and quiet and they wouldn't be disturbing others. And they're also great if students are struggling maybe a little bit with their emotional regulation. It gives them a space where they can go, they can be with a member of staff, where they can have a conversation, or they can just have some quiet time alone. Since we put them in, they've been really well used. We've put quite big windows into the quiet rooms, and we've also put windows and doors in the back of our Key Stage 3 classrooms, which means the rooms are accessible from those classrooms, but it also means that students can work independently in these areas and the staff can keep an eye on them from the classroom if they want to work independently. This is a Key Stage 4 classroom. First thing to draw your attention to is the furniture, which is bigger than the Key Stage 3 furniture to meet the needs of our older students. I think it's also worth noting, you'll notice that the carpet in this classroom is the same as the carpet in the Key Stage 3 classroom. The wall colours are the same. The lighting is the same. We've got the interactive whiteboard, which is the same, because we're trying to create that consistent environment across the school, because we feel that that's in the best interest of our students and is going to help them feel comfortable wherever they move to in the school. Another point to mention is in every classroom, we've got laptops available for the students, because some of our students find recording their work on a laptop much more effective than recording their work by handwriting. We'll always support students to develop their handwriting, but there's no pressure on them to write if they find that difficult. A real strength of the curriculum at Swaycliffe Park School is the range of subjects that we offer. Great example in this corridor here, where we've got the design technology workshop, the food technology kitchen, and the science lab. At the core of everything we do is quality of life. The school have developed a quality of life programme to help our students and their families during the time that they're with school, and then hopefully that will follow through for the rest of their lives. When they are at school, there's 4 key areas that we're focused on at all times: communication, independence, self-management, and achievement. And throughout the students' time at the school, they'll always be working to develop their skills in each of those areas. At Swaycliffe Park School, we've got a very strong therapy team. We've got 3 speech and language therapists, 3 occupational therapists, 2 clinical psychologists, and 2 clinical psychology assistants. Our approach in the school is to embed our therapy team into everything we do. So that means that their offices are within the education block. They're working with the students on a daily basis, both in group sessions and individually, just depending on students' needs. This is our occupational therapy room, which is used by our 3 occupational therapists when they're working individually with the students on their caseload. This is the gym. It's a very well-used space in the school. During the school day, it's used for PE lessons. It's also used at break time and at lunch time for sporting activities. In the evening time, again, a range of different sports take place in here. And then, in addition to that, it's used for some of our bigger events during the school year. This is the cafe, and I might be biased, but I don't think there's better school food being served anywhere in the country. This is our expressive arts building, where our music lessons take place, both group sessions and individual lessons, and it proves really popular with our students. A really important area for the school over the past 2 years has been the development of our sixth form centre. Our numbers in sixth form have risen. 2 years ago we had 20 students, and now we've got nearly 30 students. So in keeping with the rest of our approach at Swaycliffe Park School, which is small transitions all the time, we've created the sixth form centre away from the main education block to give the sixth form students that sense that they are growing up and they are going to be treated slightly differently. Here inside the sixth form centre, the students have access to a range of social areas, to kitchen facilities, and also to classrooms and workspaces. Welcome to one of the residential houses at Swaycliffe Park School. This is the lounge area where the students can relax before school, after school, and also at the weekends. Each residential house has a kitchen like this. They are important social areas for the group, and it's also where they eat their breakfast, their lunch, and their dinner. In addition to that, the kitchen also provides a great opportunity to help the students develop their independent skills, whether that's cooking, laundry, or being part of a team who keep the kitchen clean and get it set up ready for mealtime. All residential students at Swaycliffe Park School have their own bedroom with ensuite bathroom. At the school, we recognise how important a student's bedroom is to them, and we really encourage the students to make that space their own, so as to feel at home when they're away from home. That is the end of the tour. I hope that you've enjoyed having a look around Swaycliffe Park, and I hope that the tour has given you a sense of what life is like at the school. If you've got any further questions or you would like any more information, please don't hesitate to get in touch with our admissions team. Their contact details can be found on the website.
Okay, thanks Rachel. Thanks Rob for all of that. Hopefully that gives you a little bit of an insight into what the environment looks like and the sort of thoughts that go behind why we do what we do and how we set things up for the boys to be successful, particularly paying attention to the things that they deem to be important to them and the things that families feel are important to yourselves. Okay, so I'll give it a little bit of background just to sort of pull all that together. And then I'm going to hand it over to you because this is really your opportunity to ask any questions. And please don't worry about how simple you think the question is. If you're thinking it, probably somebody else is as well. And thanks to Vanessa, who asked what is a tutor LSA. And I don't know if anybody can see that. It's a learning support assistant. So in the classrooms, in each class there's a teacher and a support assistant, or a teaching assistant as they're called in other places, and that's the model. And sometimes they might be joined by a therapist for some of the sessions, but that's the general rule. The ratios are 1 to 3. Okie dokie. So as some of you will have known, if you've had a good chance to look at the website, we're a charitable trust. We're a CIO, a charitable incorporated organisation to be precise, which means we're a not-for-profit organisation, and all the fees that come in from all the local authorities we work with go into supporting the boys and the development of the school. We're currently working with about 20 local authorities across the country, and we've got, as you'll have seen on there, we've got a mixture of day boys and residents. Slightly more day boys than residents at the minute, but that's a balance that we're always looking to maintain. So out of 70 boys, we're about 30 residents at the moment. Our age range is 10 through to 19, and we do admissions throughout the year and throughout that age range, depending on where we've got spaces available. We'll say at the very outset that it's always the best possible option to be working collaboratively and constructively with your local authority. Now, some of you may fall off your chairs at this point, and we'll get into the detail of that, but that's always the ideal, because we need local authorities on side, because at the end of the day, we need them to agree to the place and pick up the keys. But we can talk about that admissions process in a little bit more detail. The profile of young people, and we're aware that you didn't really get a great view of that when you look at the video, but the profile of the young people is that they're really of broadly average ability. They're similar to a mainstream ability, but all our young people have been in mainstream and it hasn't worked out for them for any number of reasons. Maybe sensory reasons, maybe social reasons, maybe issues in the classroom around language processing, maybe issues around mental health, maybe issues around general levels of independence, all of those things that come under those 4 Ys: communication, self-management, independence, and achievement. What we want to be able to do is make them feel good about themselves, about who they want to be, about what they want to do with their lives, what makes them happy, and hence the quality of life approach, and then think about how collaboratively we can work to make that achievable. But we also want to work very, very closely with families and see what we can do. So that key working model that you'll see on the QOL framework is a critical aspect of what happens here. Every family and young person is allocated a key worker who will be your key worker for the duration of the placement, all being well. And that key worker becomes your champion, your advocate, and that regular checking in, weekly checking in a way that suits you, is a really, really important part of what we do, because we want to know that we're working on the priorities as you see them. How the boys behave and the things that they find difficult or they enjoy at home may be different to what we see in school. So we've got to have that joined up approach. Emily Gardner's approach. Emily Gardner from University of British Columbia talks about family systems and seeing every young person as an interconnected part of a family unit. So what happens in the family has an impact on the young person. What happens to the young person has an impact on the family. So if we don't have all that information about what's going on at home, we might be missing really important parts of the jigsaw. We might be working on the wrong things. We might be doing things that could be deemed insensitive if we don't have the right information. So working very closely and collaboratively with families is really an integral part of what we do. Okay, I don't worry, I can talk for hours and hours and hours, but I'm not going to. I'm going to give you a chance to talk, but if there's no questions immediately, I'll carry on. Rachel's sniggering in the background, knowing that I can talk for a little bit of time. But we have got some questions coming in. First one from Vanessa, I think. And are you able to?
Yes,
hi.
sorry, I've unmuted. I just wanted to ask, you said that the majority of your students are there because a mainstream hasn't worked out for them. We're looking at secondary now. He hasn't gone into mainstream. We're looking from the perspective that basically the Senko there thinks that mainstream will not work.
Yeah.
Is it the fact that most of your students have been placed in mainstream and then had to come out for one reason or another? And do you think that is like a painful experience that we will have to put Ben through in order to get him into a more suitable school? Or do you get people coming directly to you? Sorry, that was quite a long question.
What a brilliant question to kick us off. Thank you very much for that, because that's really, really important. The reality is a bit of both. In an ideal world, no, you know, boys don't have to be put through that situation where they're going to fail. If a mainstream school is saying we can't meet needs, it would be an awful thing for that to have to be the case. But unfortunately, that can be the reality, and we know that. So we get some transfers from primary school. We started taking young people at year 6 now, because in fact a lot of boys were starting to feel the pressure of year 6 too much and falling out of education prior to transferring to secondary. So that's why we started year 6 placements. In an ideal world, it's a seamless transition from primary school in. Unfortunately, it's not an ideal world, and sometimes that's why some young people come to us midway through year 7 or year 8 or year 9, where local authorities are insistent that the mainstream option is tried, and some mainstream schools will say, whether they're under pressure or not, that they are able to meet need, and the process can drag on. And that's why it's important to make a start on the process as early as possible, because it's very difficult to predict and say this local authority will do this or this local authority will do this. It seems very situational, it's very postcode driven, and unfortunately I wish I had better news on that front. So the ideal situation is that nobody has to go through an experience that is less than encouraging and fruitful, but that's not the reality, I'm afraid. Does that answer your question, Vanessa?
Sorry, all good.
Yeah, and I mean, the best thing is, you know, if you can get the mainstream school to say we can't meet need, that's the ideal. And having those conversations, what I would say is, keep going back to the local authority and say, provoke the conversation, are there any other options you wish us to try? Because what you don't want is for the whole conversation to drift and then say, oh, well, now you've got to try this other school, or now you've got to try this other school. In the meantime, our assessment list might be growing, and then we might not be able to do an assessment for you for another 3 months. So keeping us in the loop as to where you are, really important. And keeping the pressure on the local authority. Don't, unfortunately, I might come across as being slightly cynical, and it's only for the benefit of our experience. Keep on at them. Have everything in writing. Don't have anything just on a phone call. If you have something on a phone call, follow it up with an email saying, thank you for the phone call. I'm just going to summarize what we agreed or what the position is, so that you've got a paper trail. So that should this come to mediation, tribunal, you've got your evidence and your timeline all very well mapped out. What we tried to put into the animation about the referrals process was, it's very difficult for any of us to control that timeline. So the more pressure we apply as quickly as possible, let people know that you mean business, the better that is. Okay, we've got Leandra. Leandra, if you want to take your mic
Hi
off.
there.
Hi
Hi.
there.
Sorry, I'm looking a little bit dark. So my son is currently in mainstream, and the school are doing great with him, but he's pushing the resources to the limit. We had his EHCP review yesterday, and I mentioned that I would like to get him into a specialist placement. My understanding is that you don't fall under the OCC list of schools, is that correct? And then it would have to go to panel. So my question is really, do we still, if we really want him to go to your school, do we just fight through the EHCP process, or is there another way of getting an admission?
Okay, brilliant. Thanks very much for that. We've got 24 students from OCC. We might not be on their list, but
Okay.
they use us quite a lot. They use us a lot more than they want to use us.
Okay.
Although we are geographically in Oxfordshire, where that non-maintained means that we are, we're our own autonomous body. We're a single entity school. We have our own trustees and governors, and we make all our own decisions about admissions, curriculum, everything. So we sit outside. We could be anywhere, basically. To get a place, you would probably need to be able to demonstrate, or with the help of the school demonstrate, that they can't meet need.
Yeah.
Because this is about, are the outcomes in the EHCP being achieved in the mainstream school? Is the provision that's specified, is it actually there in reality? And are those two things joined up? So the review of any EHCP needs to be looked at very carefully, because many of them will be written in a way so that they can be achieved within a mainstream setting, because that's what local authority obviously needs. We understand why. Local authority are under, very, very dire circumstances financially. So we understand that. So the EHCP needs to make sure that it has things in it that preclude those needs being met in a mainstream environment, such as direct access to speech and language therapy, occupational therapy, clinical psychology as part of the team, not as add-ons who come in on a peripatetic basis, who are not part of the school infrastructure in terms of staffing, and things like class sizes. And then thinking about what's the track record of the organisation in getting great outcomes for young people with ASC, and what's the skill level within the organisation? To what extent are staff trained up in this? So there are a number of things. Merely asking for a change of school won't get it through panel, I'm afraid. There has to be very compelling arguments as to why local authority would have to go from this level of funding to this level of funding in terms of meeting your son's needs and the outcomes that are set there. So you really need the school on side, because if the school says it can meet need, panel will not really be very well disposed to that application. Yeah,
school and I agree kind of that it needs to change. That they've done everything literally they can. We're working almost like a resource hub, and I think he would be more suited to smaller classrooms. The social side, that kind of thing, is where he lacks. So yeah, we'll just work on the EHCP in that case. And
yes, I think that's it. Making sure that have a look at what is it that you think he needs to be the brilliant success that you and he want.
Yeah.
And what be very clear about what outcomes you're looking for, and then think about, right, if those are the outcomes we're looking for, these are the things that need to be in place as part of that provision.
Okay, thank you.
Jenna, yeah. Hi, Jenna.
Hiya.
Hi.
I was just wondering what stage in the process, so if you accept from age 10, what stage would you say to start consulting with the council, or asking the council to look at, because we've already got an EHCP and a specialist placement, but he's only 8, so it's a couple of years down the line. But at what stage would I then say
would.
could be?
Okay, so he is what, currently year 4?
Yeah.
Okay, so you need to be on this next year straight away. When at the next annual review, this is what you want everybody to know what you're looking at prior to the annual review.
Yeah.
So that you'll say, because what you want then, can I ask which local authority you are, Jenna?
Oxfordshire.
Okay, ask what are the options. That what you want to know is, if you're, for example, looking for a year 6 place, you want to know what are the options that the local authority will want you to consider as part of the due diligence, and as part of, you know, naming a specialist school like ours, for example, prior to the annual review, so that you can go to that annual review saying, I've been there, I've been there, I've been there, I've spoken to them, they say no, they say no. What you don't want is that year 5 annual review to be, okay, you need to go and do that, because then the time's going to whiz away and you're going to miss out. So you want to go into that meeting knowing what those options are, everybody understanding what the agenda of the meeting is, and then discussing the process for transfer at that meeting.
Yeah, we're kind of working in reverse, because we've got a specialist placement since September, but they've done such good work with him. He's now up to curriculum level in a specialist placement. So they're
And is
kind of
that
now saying,
but
he can't
is
cope in
that
the main. Sorry.
is that specialist placement coming to an end? Natural end?
No. So they're offering to keep him and just extending the work, I guess, to keep going, because they know he can't manage in a mainstream. He just can't cope. But it's more like he shuts down and won't can't cope in the environment. So like the small class, he's thriving in small classes and wanting like having all that support. And I think it's just, you know, realize that actually how much he can achieve is much more than, but throw him back into a mainstream and it's all going to fall apart again. So
yes, so I mean the progress to date is because of the environment, because of the provision, and that gives you an idea of what outcomes are achievable. So it's having those high expectations and saying we need to maintain the essence of what's brilliantly going on here now through till he's 19, so that his life chances are as enhanced as possible.
I'm convinced that, you know, a school like Swaycliffe would just help him so much just to become who he's capable of being, you know. So thank you.
Okay, and I mean there's some good general advice out of that question from Jenna, so thanks for that. The process will take time. Be on it as soon as possible, be proactive, and start going into those annual reviews with everybody knowing what's on your agenda and having done as much preliminary work as possible, so that the meeting isn't a bit of a dead rubber and you're just discussing stuff that actually everybody knows needs doing anyway. Okay. We got
question on the back of that question.
Yes.
In terms of the local authority, who is it that you need to speak to? Is it like a fixed role that you try and find on the website and approach? I mean, we have a Senko at the school, and he obviously has the community, the communication and interaction Senko who oversees the area as well. But in terms of that ECHP and finding out which schools, they want us to review and the hoops we have to jump through, who should we be going to at the local authority?
You'll have a nominated SEN officer. Your schools should be able to tell you who that is.
Okay.
But if not, just contact the education department. I'm looking over at Rachel here. Contact the education department that in your county.
It would be Claire Morris.
For Oxfordshire, Claire Morris.
Yes, for primary.
But if you're from another authority, it won't be Claire Morris. But for Oxfordshire, that's who, and Claire knows us very well. So she knows, she has a good gauge of which students suit our environment well, or who we suit well in terms of students. Okay, we've got another question from, I can't quite see the name there, Rachel.
I can only see the surname, Mark
Randall. Mark Randall. I'm sorry if that's, I've got the name wrong there. It hasn't come up on a. Hello.
Is it me? It's because my surname's Marchant, Randall Marchant, so it's.
Sorry, Josie, it's you, JR.
Hiya. My son is in year 7 at the moment. He's in mainstream school,
Yes.
and he's of average cognitive ability, but he's struggling with the sensory environment. He struggles with the large classes. So I've been sort of started to think about, like, we've been back and forth to the school with going to various meetings and trying to put things in place for him. And it's just none of it really seems to be helping him at the moment. So I've got to the stage where I'm thinking I don't quite know what to do next. I'm looking at all the different schools and trying to get an idea of what's around to see if what I think would suit him. Do you think I should get the LA involved quickly and just sort of speak to them about what's going on? Because we haven't done that yet. But we've sent them a letter, but we haven't actually had an emergency annual review with them. I've been speaking to the SENCO, so I'm kind of trying to figure out what's the best next stage for him, because it's getting to the end of the term, and it feels like, yeah.
I think absolutely. Is your SENCO being cooperative, and
She's
are you
great.
working well?
She's lovely. Yep, yeah. She's lovely. She's very easy to talk to.
Brilliant.
And yeah.
Okay, so between you and the SENCO, get in touch with the local authority and convene an emergency annual review.
An emergency annual review.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure when your next annual review was due.
It's in October, so it's
okay. So maybe that's not too bad. But just say to the local authority, and in fact, that's probably quite good timing, just to say at that annual review, these are the things we want to talk about. What can I do in the meantime to help prepare for that meeting so that it's productive and we can move quickly afterwards?
Okay. So just ask them what their best advice, because I thought I'd sort of find out about what's in the local area to get as much information as I could, and go through his EHCP, with a fine-tooth comb, and just sort of see what's missing from the school. Yeah.
I think if you can do that with the SENCO, that's ideal.
Okay. Yeah.
Because you need the schools, the school's view when it goes to panel, because all of these things have to go to panel, will be important.
Okay.
And so if you can get a sense of who it is who will be chairing that annual review meeting from the local authority, and then make sure that you've visited any other alternatives prior to going to that meeting.
Okay. Yeah. Brilliant.
And take your reports and say, how would you go about helping him? What have you got in place that would make this work? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Josie.
Thank you.
We've got Alison. Is that right? Alison Bell.
Oh, yes. I think we actually spoke a couple of years ago. My son's now in year 7 at a specialist school, and it isn't working out. They've said they can't meet need. Unfortunately, it's SEMH and autism, and they are. And they have admitted they can't meet need because it's upsetting him very much, the SEMH element of having those people around him. It's a class of 9. He's hypersensitive to noise, so the whole environment is too much for him.
Mhm.
So it has been recommended that he has just an autism school. So Swaycliffe seems ideal, as everybody's said, the whole sensory, being able to cope with it and everything. He has a diagnosis of PDA, which I think is misleading for perhaps people looking at his EHCP. What he's learned how to deal with that, and now just puts his head on the table. It isn't, and that's been how he spent a lot of this year, because he can't engage with all the noise going on. But when it's in the right environment, he is away. His reading age is over 17, and he's doing really well. He loves to learn. So I do feel it would be we've got the annual review in 2 weeks' time. So it feels like the right moment to be doing this, but I don't know if we've got all the paperwork and everything that you would need to see in order to be able for it to be successful.
Well, I think so. Thanks for sharing that. And there's a couple of things I'll pick up on there, which are quite helpful to the group. So one is, when you go through that annual review process, make sure your voice is heard and his voice is heard about what's working and what's not working and what's required. And then once you've been through that, you want the EHCP to be reviewed in the light of what's working and what's not working. We will then want to see the revised version of that EHCP.
They seem to think that they can only amend it if you've got reports that they can quote from. You can't amend things in the EHCP unless a professional has written something, and they haven't. That he's on the waiting list for lots of things. He's got them from the previous reports, but nothing from this year. They haven't got any reports from this year.
Is there anything that the school will write that would be helpful in that regard?
They have said they can't meet need. They've said that.
Okay, so if they can state why they can't meet need, that is very, very helpful, because that helps us, the discussion, to say, well, if you can't meet need, what is it that you haven't got or you don't do that means you can't meet need? And what is it that he does need or doesn't need that would allow this to happen? So he doesn't need to be in a mixed group with young people with SEMH issues.
Exactly.
He needs to be. So there are things that can be done, because what we want to look at is change of placement.
Yeah.
Now, if he's in a specialist school now, you're a bit further down the line because he's out of the local offer mainstream schools. So that's sort of one step further down the line. What you need to make sure is that you ask for a specialist autism school.
Yes.
Now, the only issue that I can foresee from our point of view that we would need to look at very carefully is this PDA diagnosis, because a PDA approach is a very different approach to a sort of more classic ASC approach. And we tend to find that young people who come with a PDA approach historically, they find it very difficult, because all our young people want to be adult-led. The expectation is that they're happy to be adult-led. There's a timetable, there's a curriculum, everything's organised around, but actually the expectation is the young people who do well want to just fit in and do it. And if those PDA traits go, actually, I like doing this, but I don't like doing that, or I need to be asked to do things in this particular way, that's not how we work. But there will be other schools that do. And so you need to sort of get a sense of, and this is where it gets tricky, what's at the root of that? Is it anxiety driven, or is it actually just that need to be in control and have your own agenda met? Or are you able to give that up to other people and say, and I would be happy to be adult-led? So PDA is a bit of a red flag for us, because we wouldn't want to offer a place if we didn't think we could be really wonderfully successful with it. And we wouldn't want any young person to have that feeling of they failed in the school because we were the wrong school for them. But we would happily look at the information and have a conversation with you about that.
Things do have to be worded in a special way so that it's more collaborative. That's true. I think he's less PDA than some other people. So, but I think it is more collaborative. You know, it is a different approach.
Yeah.
Have you any idea where there's because he is academic, any idea of where there is an ASC PDA friendly that wouldn't have the SCMH?
If you ping me an email, Alison,
I will.
I'll get back to you outside
That'd
this
be
forum.
fabulous. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much for that. Really helpful. Just drawing that distinction between PDA and more sort of classic presentation. Vanessa, you're back on the mic.
Sorry, lots of questions.
No, that's good. It's great. Keep
I'm
them
referring
coming.
back to a previous conversation around the ECHP reviews. We have had an annual ECHP review in February, but we never seem to get an updated copy of the actual ECHP. Who is responsible for actually issuing that? Because I thought we were supposed to be able to see it, and then we had so many days to kind of challenge it if we didn't think anything had been included that had been discussed. And I haven't had one since the very first ECHP that we got, which was now a couple of years ago, because I don't think we even got a review with the pandemic. And obviously now we're talking to schools and they want to see the ECHP.
Of course they do, yeah. It's the local authority's responsibility. It's their legal responsibility. And there's a time frame set out in the Code of Practice.
Okay.
So they should have something with you within 4 weeks of the annual review meeting for you to look at, and then you get 15 days to respond to that.
Right, well, we haven't had it. Right.
So if that hasn't happened, point that out to them with your disappointment and say, you know, you expect to be able to see this document because you need to be using it, and just, you know, say, you know, that their practice is not within the spirit or the letter of the Code of Practice, and just let them know that you know that.
Thank you. Will do.
Have we got anybody from local authorities who are not Oxfordshire? Edward.
Warwickshire. We're Warwickshire. Stratford-upon-Avon, I suppose, Warwickshire. Yeah.
Yeah.
We haven't had an updated EHCP since he was originally diagnosed since he originally went to primary school in 2018.
Okay, so get on to your local authority about that, because keeping them.
They promised us one at the annual review this year. I mentioned it, and they promised to update it and let me have it, because he's only year 4, but I want to get my ducks in a row so that there's hopefully he doesn't miss out on any education once he leaves in year 6.
So when was that annual review?
That was in June. Beginning of May.
Okay, so
it should be due.
It should be due. Remind them on the day of the anniversary of the 4 weeks. Remind them.
Okay.
Josie, where are you from?
I'm from Bucks.
Bucks. Okay.
Yeah.
So Bucks is a local authority we've got a long history of working with. Warwickshire, we've got a long history of working with. Oxfordshire, obviously. Any others? Okay. Oh, we've got a Rob Lee asking a question. His name's come to the top of the list. No, he's just listening in. No. Okay. Any other questions at this point?
I have another one, if it's okay.
Yes, please, fire away.
How do we know if our child is right for, well, if your environment is the right environment for him. So
Yeah.
obviously we've had the conversation around mainstream not being.
Yeah.
The challenge I have in general with our son is that he is very highly intelligent,
Yeah.
but can't cope, and with kind of the, you know, he needs the support and the focus and everything. So it's a way up between the supportive environment, but also to help him achieve his actual potential. And I'm finding it very difficult to understand, well, where is the right place?
Yeah. It's not easy. I mean, I think the best thing to do under these circumstances is to share any reports and have a chat with Chris, who's on the video, and talk about some of the issues that make either mainstream difficult or current specialist placement difficult. And Chris will give you a more in-depth answer about, you know, the social groupings that we have, the cognitive groupings that we have, the sensory issues that the boys face, the methodology in the classroom, the sorts of issues that our speech and language therapists and clinical psychologists and OT deal with routinely. And that might help you to come to a judgment. One of the things, you know, we're very upfront about saying is that, you know, if a young person displays behaviours that can be perceived as challenging, we're not the right place. We don't have strong behaviour management in place. We expect the young people to do what we ask them to do. And by and large, apart from the fact that they're teenage boys, they will do it. We expect a little bit of naughtiness in them because they're teenage boys, and that's natural. So if it's, you know, routines that reinforce positive behaviour, there are better places than us, because we have very little behaviour to deal with, to manage. And the boys are the role models to the new ones who come in. All of our boys have, you know, either not been able to make it in mainstream, or they bypass that system, as I mentioned earlier. Everybody's aware that, you know, there are aspects of life that are a bit tricky. So it's a very caring community. And, you know, some of the boys are quite fragile when they arrive. So what we will do is safeguard, that's our first duty, to safeguard the boys who are with us and make sure that we don't do anything that would be disruptive to their social or emotional well-being, or their ability to learn and develop and be the people they want to be. And that's why I would talk about, you know, we were quite forensic when we look at the paperwork, because we don't want to put a young person into a position where they're not going to be able to feel that they've got a peer group or be successful because of their behavioural presentation. That wouldn't be fair on them. And so that's a lot of what we look at through the referral process. Now, what we do know is some young people demonstrate behaviours because of sensory overload in a mainstream environment or a primary school environment or a different type of environment. And some of those behaviours are environmentally induced. So we've got to try and tease that out. Would they be able to respond positively in our environment? And Chris is the right person to have that conversation with. So I'm sort of evading the issue of the question, but I'm not, because it's very nuanced, and it's trying to get to the root cause of where do some of these behaviours come from, and are we confident that within our environment those behaviours would dissipate. That's we've got a question from Cora. My son's being homeschooled. Should I send his EHCP? Yes, indeed. If you don't, so we're always happy to look at papers. The only thing I'll say is, just like on the animation, there's poor Chris in the middle, buried in EHCPs, independent reports, goodness knows what else. So we have to be patient. At the minute, the focus is on making sure that young people are looking for September placements. That's the priority. So there's we literally time mark when the papers come in, and then there's just a queue. And I couldn't tell you how many are in the queue at the minute, but we'll get to them as soon as possible. But you can always ping an email and go, "Oi, Chris, where am I? Where are you up to?" We're very amenable to a nudge and just getting a sense of time. Or you may go, "You know what? Actually, an emergency annual review is being convened. Is there any chance we can do something about that?" We know that these timelines are quite dynamic, so keep chatting to us. But we ask you for your patience. We literally do get about 200 plus every year. And we want to be fair to everyone and do everybody justice and get it right for everybody. Jenna.
Hello again. I noticed you said that there's a few clinical psychologists within the school. And I just wondered, I suppose, what kind of role they do with the children. My son's got a medical condition as well, and there's a clinical psychologist within the team, but I think she finds it hard to help my son sort of from the clinical psychology perspective, because her specialist is in the medical condition, not in autism. So I just wondered if that could be like something that might be helpful for him to if there could be if that could be something that I could put towards the why I think this school could be a good thing for him. If
Absolutely.
Clinical psychology input.
Yeah, I mean, our clinical psychologists, they're working in an autism environment, that is their background. So they're helping our young people in terms of managing anxiety, dealing resilience, dealing with difficult situations. Some young people have aspects of trauma that they come with. Some have had a history of mental health issues. So there's a whole range of issues in that domain associated with autism that our psychologists can help young people with. It's a very powerful lever to have in an EHCP.
Yeah.
If he needs access to it. And what we would always do is, for a young person seeing anyone in CAMS or any other professionals for whatever reason, we maintain links with them going forwards, because it's very important that you don't lose some of those links, particularly if they're also involved in another aspect of a medical issue, for example.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
That's up. Yeah. Excellent. We've answered Cora's question. Good. Have we got anything? Oh, so there's something come up about Dean. Dean's not in the office. Dean's on paternity leave. So Dean's not with us today. Dean, I'm not sure why it's come up about Dean, but in case you were wondering, because it was in the chat, that's who. Dean does a lot of our IT work.
I've got a question about PDA traits, where it's not actually been diagnosed.
Right. Well, so PDA, that's an interesting, wasn't it? Because it's not really a recognised diagnostic condition, although it does get diagnosed. So it's not a DSM diagnostic condition. So people use it. The difficulty here is that some people use it thinking it'll be helpful to get into our school, and it isn't. It's the contrary, for the reasons why I've explained. PDA traits is probably a better way of talking, because those are what are the behaviours that we're seeing, what are the presenting behaviours, and what is the cause of those behaviours. That's really what we need to be talking about. And if a young person is behaving in a way because they're terrified, highly anxious, and their only way of coping is to do one thing because they're in a noisy class of 30, socially isolated and not feeling good about themselves. That's a very different sort of thing. That's a coping strategy. That can be, you know, so what we want to do is get to the nub of what the issue is, and then look at what the behaviours are that are associated with that. That's where psychology reports can be very helpful. But if we're not sure, those are the things that we would talk to you about and talk to the school about, and try and get a sense of whether or not ours would be a good environment or not. Not black and white, I'm afraid, like my lovely Newcastle United shirt. Okay, does that? I'm quite happy to take questions on Newcastle United as well as school admissions process. That's going to lead to a flurry of activity. Have we got any more, Rachel? Have we got anything else in the pipeline there?
No, Jenna's still got a hand.
Jenna, have you got another question there, Jenna, or you just
No.
you're just ready to pounce?
Sorry, I forgot to take it off.
That's okay. That's okay.
No, not at the moment.
Okay, so let me just maybe give you a bit more food for thought. You might be interested in the destinations of our young people. Well, I can give you some examples. Over recent years, as I say, we've got quite a mainstream group of young people. So our curriculum will offer a lot of what you would find in a mainstream school curriculum. We offer GCSEs, functional skills. We offer some BTECs post-16. We offer some A-level post-16. We offer some vocational courses post-16. We have a link with a local high school, the Warrener in Boxham, and some of our boys go there to do some of their A-level work because the size of our school, we can't offer a full A-level curriculum. We have linked with Banbury College as well, where a number of our young people go and do some vocational courses, and some young people stay here and do courses here. We structure our exams over the course of as many years as it needs to be. So we don't have a cut-off saying you need to do your exams in year 11, because that could be quite a ludicrous thing to do, especially if somebody's been out of school or had a difficult school experience. What we want the boys to get is the best exam results they can get in the right numbers in the right areas. So that might be, nobody needs more than 6 GCSEs to do anything. Whatever you want to be, you can do it with 6 GCSEs. So nobody's being, cut off from anything by only doing 6. Some of our boys do more than 6, but they won't do them all in one go. They might do 7 year 10, 7 year 11, 7 year 12, 7 year 13. It's about finding a pathway that works for that young person, balancing out what they need in terms of, this is not just about academic success. This is about quality of life. This is about communication, independence, and self-management. You've got to have time for all of that within your curriculum. So independence is timetabled. Key working is timetabled. Some of the therapeutic work is timetabled because it's important. So some of our boys go on to university, some will go on to further education, some may go into apprenticeships, some may go into work, and all of those have happened over the last few years, where young people are academically gifted and bright. Then university is a great option, and we can help with that, and we've got a good track record of that. But that's not always the case, just like it isn't in a mainstream school. And so we've got a whole range of options that many young people go into, certainly in terms of IT, in terms of hospitality, in terms of, we've had tree surgeons, we've had HGV driving, we've had, Rachel can help me out, as well as the university courses. Some of them will come back to me. Retail, car mechanics, that's the one. We run a thing called Green Power, you might see it on the website, which is it's an energy, what's that, I'm trying to get the word. It's sort of like electric car. The boys build electric cars here and they race them. They race them all over the country, Silverstone, Goodwood, all the big race tracks. And actually that provides a really strong area of interest for many of the boys, and they go off and follow things sort of within that sphere, because that offers many different options. So there's lots of exciting options that happen outside the school day as well as during the school day. And we offer an extended day curriculum for the day boys. We can't guarantee access to it every night for all the day boys because that's actually for the resident boys, but we make it open for the day boys as well. So there's a range of things off-site, on-site, and those provide opportunities for the boys to A, try something new, B, meet with a wider peer group who's not in their class group, and C, generalised skills in a whole range of different contexts. And that's the important part. How do we know that what they're learning in school, through whatever it is they're doing, transfers into a different context? And that's why it's really important for us to have that relationship with you. Because it's no good if somebody can cross the road when it's with a member of staff, but he can't do it at home. So it's working through that Independence Plus curriculum. You get a copy of that Independence Plus curriculum. You can see what we're doing, and we work collaboratively, and we say, we're doing this. If there are opportunities to develop this in the evenings or weekends, that'd be brilliant if you could do that as well. So we're working in genuine partnership. Chris, have you just joined us? Oh, I've just seen Chris's a message come up.
Oh no, I've put Chris's email address for people to contact.
You're just getting people excited, Rachel, that there's another voice to listen to. Okay, so that's Chris's email address. He's our lead on referrals. So if you have got paperwork that you'd like Chris to have a look at, you can send it to him. Say that you've been part of this meeting today, and you're sending that, and Chris will give you a rough idea of when you might be able to get to have a look at it. Okay. Have we any other questions? Questions, suggestions, points of interest, anything that anybody wants to share, any experience anybody wants to share? Yes, Suzanne.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I'm in the middle of weighing up. Leo is in mainstream school with a one-on-one TA, and he's doing really well. But as you say, the EHCP probably could be more challenging to him, potentially. So I'm in the middle of weighing up really whether, I mean, what is the benefit of being in a fully autistic autism environment compared to how he is with more neurotypical children, and being able to mimic those sorts of behaviours.
Brilliant, thank you for that. And just for everybody's benefit, Leo is how old?
He's 9.
He's 9. So if he's doing well, that's brilliant, and let's not muck about with that. Yeah. We don't have anybody who requires one-to-one help, and I'm skeptical about the benefits of one-to-one help going forwards in secondary.
Yeah, well, absolutely. He's totally reliant on his TA.
Yeah. So
just head on the desk, tears, meltdown when she's not there. We need to extract him from that.
Yeah. So what we want, oh, I've got some funny, I'll just get rid of that funny thing that's come up on the screen. That's nothing to do with your question. So I think there's one of the things that are, going forwards is that we're talking about self-management, communication and independence. Those require specialist input. You don't just learn that incidentally. You might see other people being able to do it. That's highly annoying if you can't do it. So the experience we have when I talk to families all the time is, it was fine in primary school, but as they go into secondary school and adolescence kicked in, the differential between the neurotypical becomes greater.
Yeah, it's become
our boys become more ostracized. And if somebody attaches a one-to-one support to them, that makes it worse. they become totally reliant on them, and they're marked out as needing additional support. So the benefits of an ASD population and environment is A, they can feel safe. They can feel that they're allowed to be themselves and they don't have to be the same as everybody else. There are big self-esteem issues here that can translate into mental health issues. They will get the relevant support that they need. They will also get access to the curriculum that they need. Also important for self-esteem to feel successful in that academic way and to be able to go off and do what they want to do when they leave school. But and I say we and other schools like us are able to do is give them those skills and strategies that they need to be able to navigate their way through life. School is, we got one shot at it. And once it's gone, it's gone. And these are the formative years. And they can either be brilliant and joyous, or they can be hellish. What we want is for every child to have the most wonderful, hassle-free childhood, but to be prepared for adulthood, to have the resilience to deal with whatever life throws at them. So we challenge our boys to do things that they don't want to do and they can't do. But we have a safety net so they can fail safely, because that's how they'll learn. But we need to help them to learn to get on a train independently, to know what to do if the train doesn't turn up, or if somebody's rude to them, or there's too many people around, or whatever it is. They need to know, but we need to teach them how to do these things and give them the skills, strategy, and confidence to be able to do them, and to allow them to feel that whatever their strengths and interests and aptitudes are, that they can come to the fore and they can be accepted and respected for that young person who they want to be. And that's at the essence of quality of life. Not feeling on the periphery and on the outside looking in. Being on the inside and being part of the inside. Mm-hmm. That's what sets our boys up well. Now, those are the tricky judgments that you as families need to make, as whether you think there is a trade-off. There are things they'll miss from being in mainstream, absolutely. But are the gains greater and are the risks reduced?
Yeah, because the other school we were looking at is actually just up the road, is Sibford.
Yeah.
Who I've not actually had any, I've had conversations with them, but, you know, they're a mixed school and have more mainstream elements, but they have got specialisms in dyslexia and autism. So we were looking at there as well, and in comparison, you know, I think the important thing you do is as much looking around as possible. You know, visit as many schools as you possibly can. Just like if you, it's not a great example, but it's an example. If you go to buy a house, you don't just buy the first one you hear of, generally. We generally look around and we go, oh, I like that from that one, I like that from that one, I like that from that one. And eventually you get a sense of, oh, I hadn't thought that that was a different way of going about doing that. That's the peer group that would best work for my son. So it's about trying to do all of those things and coming up with what may end up being a best fit. But you want to have that level of confidence. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Whenever we do these, we've never ever run beyond an hour and a half. And we're on an hour, it's usually back on it. We're on an hour and 19 minutes at the minute. So we're a slightly smaller group. So I'm just wondering if there's anything else. Is anybody interested in residential? Or is it all day places that we're looking at?
Yeah, I would be interested to know how it works, how you decide.
Well, if anybody is interested in residential, it's, you know, maybe absolutely not, that's fine. make sure you ask for that at the very beginning. Very difficult to convert a day place into a residential place. So if you think a residential place is required, but you need a very strong justification for a residential place. You need access to a waking day curriculum. That would need to be part of the presentation to panel. And we have got resident students from Oxfordshire, we have got resident students from Warwickshire, we have got resident students from Bucks. So it is possible if there's a strong enough case for it. But you really have to talk about that. So in terms of what we offer, all the boys have their own bedroom. They've all got ensuite facilities. We do feed them. It's warm. We have central heating. They have a lovely time. They go home. It's on a 2-weekly boarding basis. So they're here for basically 10 days and then they go home for a weekend. But if families want to come and take their boys home in the middle weekend and do stuff with them, or they're parts of clubs, that's fine too. And we're very flexible about that. But that's the contract that we offer, is a 2-weekly boarding residential placement over 38 weeks. Vanessa, does that cover anything there, or was there a bit more detail you wanted?
No, that's fine. I mean, it's not something I was proactively considering. Still kind of deciding what's actually the right approach.
Of course. And, you know, one of the benefits of having a residential provision is that there is that rich out-of-school curriculum, because we provide that for the resident boys. So there are lots of opportunities for day boys to join in some of those activities: swimming, horse riding, rock climbing, green power, going to the gym, going
trips out at the
just
weekend.
trips out at weekends to all sorts of far-flung places, doing basically what the sorts of things they want to do. We don't tell them what they're going to do. They decide what it is, and we say, right, how many, if somebody's interested in train spotting, then we'll say, right, who wants to be in that gang, and we'll take everybody down there. So it's very responsive to the needs of the boys, because, as you would imagine, the interests of the boys changes from term to term, year to year, as does quality of life. Dynamic concept. Anything else from anybody else? Yes, come on, one more, 2 more.
Yeah, it was just a quick one. For the day boys, is there transport locally? Do you provide like a minibus that zips around the counties? No.
No. But if you get a place here, local authority is responsible for taxi to and from school every day. That's part and parcel of the placement.
Warwickshire will negotiate.
Sorry, Warwickshire, they might be a bit more hard line on it, but they should provide it. Yes, but they should, because what they've got to make sure is, if somebody has an EHCP and a school is named, they've got to make sure that they can get there.
Yeah.
So don't give up and trade that early on in any process.
Okay. Because
family circumstances change, and you might be able to drive somebody in on a daily basis at the minute, but things might change.
No, if parents work, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for that one. Dave.
Yeah, good afternoon. So my question is quite a simple one, really. What sort of hours do the day pupils do? So is it, how long is the day? What time would they start in the morning and finish in the evening?
9 till 10 past 4. 9 o'clock. Yeah, 9 o'clock in the morning.
School starts at 9:30, but we've got the activities from 9.
Yeah, so we have a sort of, the first lesson's 9:30, but we have a transition time in the morning, so that there's activities from 9 till 9:30 to help the boys just come in, get used to being back in the building, seeing each other again, offloading on anything that's happened the evening before, and so they're ready to go for lesson 1, and then finish at 10 past 4.
Okay, and do they do any sports? So things, obviously quite small year groups, I guess. So doing things like football teams and cricket or whatever it might be. Do they take part in things like that?
A lot of football interest this year and last year. So lots of football goes on. They have the odd game against other schools. They do some athletics against some other schools. but it varies year to year. And so we try and find what it is that does it year to year. A lot of them play volleyball at lunchtime. And then 1 or 2 are involved in outside school clubs that we help them to be part of, whether that's for football or rugby or running, cycling, those sorts of things. So we can help link boys into different activities that happen after school as well as during school.
Okay, thank you.
We might be able to let everybody off 5 minutes early. Anything else from anybody else? Well, thanks very much for joining us this afternoon, for giving up an afternoon. Hope it's been helpful. Have a look at the YouTube channel. There's bits of information there. Have a look at the website. There's a lot of background information on quality of life there, a whole section on that, and how we're also helping other schools to implement that within their setting. We've got about 40 schools we're working with on that as well. We just had an Ofsted inspection for residential in March, so that is available. Our last school inspection was 2019, but all the inspection reports are on the Ofsted website or on our website, so you can have a look at those. Thank you very, very much, everybody, and we look forward to hearing from you, and very best of luck and have a lovely summer. Bye from Rachel and I. Bye now.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Cheers, bye-bye.